r/AskReddit. Serious redditors who were head over heels in love with their s/o but got divorced. What went wrong? Met on Tinder. For 2 weeks we had the most amazing conversations and found out we were almost an exact match. For almost every situation or idea we agreed. Decided to wait to meet up and keep texting. On the first date you could tell that most of her profile pics were doctored or filtered, and she secretly wore something under her shirt to hide her stomach pooch. But no worries. She was still very cute and pretty, and her attitude was upbeat and positive. Wanted to play things right on the first date and not sleep with her. She came on so strong to the point of basically making it seem like the date would be a failure if we didn't seal the deal. Second date she asks me to hang out at her apartment. She has a 4-year-old daughter that she allows to basically audition with me as her stepdad. Thought it was a bit uncomfortable, but I was nice and playful back because her daughter was just too damn cute. Date for a few weeks and things start to creep up. She finds out that one of my co-workers is an ex and she still texts me as friends. She finds out because she went through my Facebook and asked about all the female friends I had, and I didn't lie when she asked about that particular one. She took it as if it was an ultimate betrayal. Rest of relationship she would throw that in my face when she was losing an argument. She said I technically was cheating. Get through this thinking it will be a one-time fight though. 3 months later when her lease is up she wants to move into my house. I still think things are okay and can be managed, so I say what the hell and agree. Things start to swing badly when she goes through my internet history, my phone, and my emails on many occasions and uses harmless things she finds on there to say I'm cheating on her. Like an email link of a girl's hoodie I sent my friend as a gift idea for another girl. She believed I bought it for my ex/co-worker and threw it in my face over and over. She uses fights as leverage to get what she wants. Every time she brings up something, like I say good morning to the dog before her, or I didn't say I love you right away when I get home from work. She sets up these scenarios where if I fail and don't do it, she can bitch at me for it. When she realizes she's being crazy she just throws a tantrum and says she's breaking up and moving out. Then she comes to her senses, but says she will only stay with me if I give something up. First it was alcohol, then it was video games, then the computer entirely. Then I had to start deleting specific women off of Facebook. She starts alienating me from my friends. Everything we do usually involves her friends, or her family, and she always makes it a point to make me seem like an asshole or a dick at some point, so that her friends and family are always on her side. I can't even make trips to the hardware store by myself, or I get told I'm trying to get away from her. Every menial task she has to take care of I have to ride with her. Never allowed to stay home by myself, or relax by myself. Must spend time with her. She wants to go to the gym every night after work and I must babysit her daughter. I'm only allowed to babysit, and I can't watch TV other than kids shows with her, and I can't play any video games or do anything fun for myself while keeping an eye on her. She rushes through dinner, gets mad when things take time, and she misses precious minutes. When I start to bring it up as an issue she starts knock-down drag-out arguments about how she needs to go to the gym and that I hate her going to the gym to improve herself, when it wasn't her going to the gym, but the fact that it was getting in the way of our home life that I objected to. Her mom has a stroke and she fights me about letting her move in with us in my house. Decides if she pays for the kitchen remodel, it is both our house and she has a say. She will leave me if I don't let her mom move in. Her mom moves in, and I become the house handyman. They proceed to take over the house, and I'm expected to just sit on the sofa with them and watch HGTV all night, and I get in trouble for even putting a baseball game on my phone. Meanwhile she's constantly on Facebook or Pinterest. Her mom is selfish as well, but it's a whole story in itself. I see where she gets it from. I'm miserable. I'm controlled. I'm yelled at or on trial for everything I do. She wants to totally rework my house to be her own. Makes me sell off most of my stuff in a garage sale. She wants to paint the fireplace, remodel this, remodel that, take down all my decorations, and put up what she wants, because she says I live like an old man. Things go on like this for a few months. I bond with her daughter, teach her to swim, ride a bike, read so much. Tell her she needs therapy, and that it's over unless we go to counseling. She cries and says I'm right. Agrees to counseling. 2 weeks later starts a fight with me over grabbing the seat in her Jeep when she took a hard turn. Starts yelling at me that if I can't handle the way she drives I shouldn't ride with her. Drops me off at the house. Yells at me that she's told me too many times that I make her nervous when I overreact in the car. When I finally have enough and go off on her she says she's done and it's my fault because I didn't find a therapist in time. I say it's only been 2 weeks and a week of it we were flooded in due to a hurricane. Doesn't matter. As I come to find out she never planned on going to therapy. Weeks earlier she had plotted with her mother and her deadbeat drughead sister to move out, and she already had a house lined up weeks ago. She moves out that weekend. Demands she gets the refrigerator because she picked it out. Yet I'm stuck with the bill for the remodel on the kitchen, and I'm still paying it while she moved out and is free and clear of any obligations. I have to buy all new shit because I sold most of my stuff in garage sale. Have to start working extra hours to afford the bill for the kitchen. She tries to keep in contact, to keep an eye on me, and pretends she's going to get back with me. She just needs time apart to get better as a person so she can be better for me. A few weeks later I hear from one of my close friends she's bad mouthing me like everything was my fault and that she's already sending tit pics to other guys. I confront her about all her lies and she says so what, we are broke up, and gets mad at me again for caring. I drive off and make a pact with myself to never contact her again and to stay away from her. So far so good. That was a year ago. Also I kind of forgot the worst part. After she decided she was moving out she sent her daughter to stay with her dad, and I never saw her again. She never let me say goodbye, she just took her and left and I've never seen her since. It doesn't surprise me because she would constantly brag during fights about how she already took her away from her real dad, so if we broke up she'd just be taking her away from a fake dad. Edit. Since I was about to leave work I left a few things out. I'm going to go ahead and write them in here because I'll probably cut and paste this comment in future threads to help people recognize emotional abuse. Thanks to /u/lunatsket for this link. https://psychopathiominous.wordpress.com/category/drjokava/ which I suggest anyone who thinks they are experiencing an abusive partner should read. I went above the word limit, so I've basically posted more of this novel as replies to this comment. Part 2, Part 3. Anyways, most of you guys are probably reading this thinking how did I put up with so much for so long? And the only way I can explain it is between her and her daughter. 50% of the time everything was great and she portrayed the perfect girlfriend. And when someone is emotionally abusive you don't tend to recognize it when you never been through it before and you start to think maybe I'm a fuck up and maybe things are really my fault, maybe I'll get better for her. But a year later and a diagnosis of depression and being happy and figuring things out about myself prove otherwise. Also, for those of you that got this far, sorry for the bad grammar and punctuation. After the first few paragraphs the rest was dictated to my phone through my Bluetooth on my drive home. I think once I started telling the story I just had to finish it. Didn't get married, but over the course of our 8-year relationship she has tried to break up 4 or 5 times, the most recent being yesterday. She usually changes her mind, but this is the final straw for me. In no particular order, complained we never do couple type things, while systematically removing any and all free time we had, like the kids' bedtimes would get later and later. We are at the point where it's 10 PM on school nights, which doesn't leave much time, and 1 AM at weekends. Uses me as a babysitter for her 2 kids from a previous relationship. so she can go out every Saturday nother, and I'm never invited. Never interested in trying to do things we might both enjoy. I don't drink for example, so of course that's all she ever wants to do. If I suggested doing something together. Constantly obsessing over her ex when they broke up 10 years ago. Consistently dumping her emotional problems on me, but getting mad at me if I was upset about something. Control freak. You probably get the picture by now. So now I'm in the wonderful position of scrambling to get my stuff in order and look for somewhere to live in a town I hate and don't know anyone else very well in. I moved here when she became pregnant with our child and never really needed to make friends. Not that I'd have time to anyway. Edit. I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone. It's good to know I haven't been imagining problems and have some affirmation on the situation. Of course this has just been my side of the story and I'm by no means perfect, so she probably has a similar list of grievances against me, but it has been good having people completely outside of the situation to talk to. We were in love, and she told the history of her mother not being able to forgive people, and I said good thing I've got her, and that she is completely different than her mother. We lived in our apartment and 18 months in she told me that she dreamed of the day I would be gone. We went on some years and I noticed that just like on America's Got Talent I was walking around with permanent big red X's over my head. She told me she loved me. She told me she did not. We made new friends, we dropped old friends. I tried to break through the wall that she built between us. We could talk about things, but I never gained access inside. But I still loved her. I became depressed, badly depressed, and we carried on. She was always kind to me. We had kids. We had a dead bedroom. Depression is not attractive, but I still loved her. I talked to guys at work who were divorced and remember thinking good thing that will never happen to me because I've got her. Depression issues came to a head, was in a bad car accident, lost my job, had health problems, but I still loved her. And then she asked me to leave. I did. I arranged a spiritual retreat for myself, and she said it was a great idea, and during the 3 weeks she got rid of all my stuff, sent it to my parents' house. I suffered depression for several years, but was getting better when she asked for a divorce. That strangely finally broke the depression. But I still loved her, but recognized that I could never be with her because all of the things she railed against her mother for doing she was replicating willfully in her own life. She blamed me for the whole thing, and while I acknowledge my contributions she never could. She made me, my parents, and my sister villains. My parents were terrible people who allowed her to live rent-free in their home for over a year. My sister offered free childcare so that she could justify her actions to herself. Part of me still loves her, and always will. One specific part of me misses her terribly, but most of me is glad to be free. I do feel sympathy for her, because until she recognizes her problems within herself she will repeat them. I was easy to push around, but she remarried a cop. I don't see it lasting long. He had a severe anxiety disorder, and decided he didn't want to take his medication anymore. He became worse and worse despite me trying to change what I did and how I talked to avoid upsetting him. One day I came home from a hard day at work. I was the breadwinner and asked if he could do the dishes because I was exhausted. He flipped out and left and never came back. Straight up abandoned me. I called everyone he knew. No one knew where he was. Filed a missing persons report. A week later he called me from his mother's. She had lied to me when I called her and said she didn't know where he was. He had gone straight to her place and was there the whole time, leaving me to be worried sick. He said he was too sick to be with anyone and said he wanted a divorce despite my pleas to go to couples counseling or anything else that might help. Happy ending though. A few years later I met a fantastic guy who treats me better than anyone ever has. Repost. Because I feel you. 15 years in, and I find texts on her phone. Completely blindsided. No clue she had it in her to cheat. Told me it was just texting. Begged for forgiveness. I caved. A month later, checked the phone bill to find that it never stopped. Confronted her again. Cue more begging and more denial on my part that she would let the life we had built go down in flames. This went on for a few months. So many promises. One night, I caught her on the phone when she thought I had left. Suddenly it's not just texts. Sometimes it was phone calls too. Just a friend she could talk to that she'll let things go too far with. Promised to break all contact. Swore it was never physical. Then I found emails. She detailed things that made me sick to read, but also included descriptions of his house. She broke finally, but swore it was all just in the line of duty. That's how she met, you see. Visiting nurse service, and this guy was a client. Promised she was done. Loved me, you see. No chance she was going to let 15 years go like that. I wasn't buying it anymore though. She announced she was going out one night with a work friend. Promised they were only going to the bar, then she'd be home. Maybe late, but not too late. She had taken over her own phone account by then, but wasn't bright enough to understand that Google attitude was still showing me where she was, and I wasn't about to show my hand. She kissed me goodbye and beelined right for his house, and was there until the wee hours of the morning. Once I knew where she had headed, I called her dad and my best friend to keep me from doing anything dumb. I will love them both forever for keeping me calm while my world went fucking insane all around me. My father-in-law offered to stay with the kids and wait for her to get home. Around 3 AM, while couch surfing my buddy's place, she sent me a nasty text asking where the fuck I thought I was. I texted her a screenshot of her little GPS dot at her boyfriend's and let her know I'd be sending her some paperwork soon. As a person who, deep down, always wanted a wedding, but settled for just life with my now ex, DH, I can say I've never been more horrified at human behavior. Were there any signs? Well, yeah, but I kinda didn't see them or ignored them. I'm gonna list some stuff I saw since we got engaged up until after the wedding, so you can decide on your own. When I gave her the ring I asked her to not publish stuff in FB since I wanted to personally let know some of my closest friends. She didn't. That same night she posted it. She didn't apologize, but instead asked me to understand she was just too excited. That stuff caused me some trouble with a longtime friend. While planning the wedding we looked for affordable venues, food, and mostly everything had to meet a tight budget. TBH she did this amazingly well. The only thing we couldn't afford was a quality photographer. After the wedding, when other friends showed us their wedding pictures she'd get depressed for about a week. I mean, we had some great pictures some guests took, and our photographer managed to take a few good pictures too. But she couldn't show off, so that bothered her. When planning the wedding and honeymoon we worked very well together. Coming back from the honeymoon it mostly was all up to me. She wouldn't take any responsibility, wouldn't hold up her end of our arrangements, and it all went downhill. At the end it felt like I had a roommate who might have very mediocre sex once in a while. I had to pay her rent and food, and she would just be around. I'm sure I wasn't perfect either, and that she might have a different story, but this is how I felt it. She never apologized. Even after we split, called it quits, signed the papers, and haven't heard from her since. Life is good. Wow. I feel lucky after having read these other stories. I was madly in love with my first wife, and I still care for her, and would do anything to help her. We were married 16 years, and then got divorced. It wasn't any one single event like an affair or something. We just grew into different people. I summed I up in a few quips. While she was pursuing a professional image, I'm a counterculture D-list celebrity in my town. For background, I own a couple of head shops, while she is currently a dean at a university. When we divorced she was already high up in administration. She was pursuing her spirituality, while I'm a skeptic and non-believer, an atheist if you will. She wanted to move back to our home state and I've made a life in our current location. Since the divorce she has gotten to go back to our home state where she landed her dream job. And the last major reason is she preferred opera, while I liked camping. We still talk on the phone every few months. After 5 years of being single, I've remarried again to a woman who is closer in lifestyle to me. It was bittersweet to end a marriage, but we did it with no animosity. It just got to a point where we were friends. parents rather than lovers/husband and wife. I don't know if it went horribly wrong as much as we both changed into different people over the years. I still wish her happiness and I know I could still call her if I was ever in a pinch. We were together 13 years, since she was 18 and I was 21, married for the last 7. I wanted to split up, she most certainly did not. At the time, I felt like something was wrong with me. I figured I was having a midlife crisis. The last time I ever saw her, she told me that when we first met I had saved her. She was going through a dark period in her life, and she thought of me as her hero. 6 or 7 months later I woke up, and it was like a switch had been flicked in my head, and I regretted the hell out of splitting up. Understandably, she had moved on with her life. I was subsequently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and learned that it can affect your behavior. There is a condition called manuscript personality wherein a sufferer's loved ones describe their behavior as psychopathic, completely devoid of empathy. Either I was the world's biggest oucher bag, or my immune system chewing holes in my brain played a part. Either way it doesn't matter, the outcome is the same. It's been 7 years and I know I will never love anyone else. So this is not my story, but a family friend's. She married her high school sweetheart. They'd been together for 10-ish years I believe, and before they pulled the trigger on marriage they took a break to make sure it was what they really wanted. After they break they were still in love, so they got married. I went to the wedding, and it was nice. Very fun, and they seemed very into each other. Fast forward 4 years. The marriage still seems to be going smoothly, and the family friend, the bride, decides to go back to school and study for a medical degree, I think. Medical or law. The specific degree doesn't matter. Her husband is extremely supportive of the decision and encourages her to go for it. 1 week after she starts school, he tells her that he wants a divorce. She's completely floored and asks him for the reason, but he doesn't really have one. He just said that it's over. She offered to drop out of college immediately, go to marriage counseling, and do whatever was needed to fix the marriage, but he just staunchly refused across the board. So she gave him a final warning. She'd do whatever she could to fix the marriage, but once the paperwork was signed, that'd be it forever period. So she wanted to make sure that he was completely sure it was what he wanted. He confirmed it was. The paperwork was signed, and the marriage was no more. And about a month later, guess who comes crawling back? Smart gal that she is. Our family friend tells him to take a hike. We have a few theories why he wanted the divorce, but nothing concrete. Last I heard, this family friend had gotten engaged again to her new boyfriend of about a year. He's about 10 years younger than her, and her family is understandably concerned, and had along with her fiance about whether or not he was sure, making sure that he knew what he was signing up for, especially with a woman this much older than him. Are you still going to love her when you're pushing 30 and she's 40? They're afraid that she's just in panic mode because she's 30 now and doesn't want a life to slip her by, so she's latching on to the first guy she finds, damned of the consequences. Only time will tell now about this situation. I really do hope it works out for her though. She's been through enough shit and deserves some happiness. In retrospect, it's not how you handle things when your relationship is good. The true test of a relationship is how each person deals with it when things get hard. When I married my now ex, I was very deeply in love with him and was absolutely sure I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. He and I were compatible on all levels and had a great time whatever we did. I loved his kids like they were my own. It was meant to be until it wasn't. I started noticing that his parenting wasn't exactly what he promised it would be, especially with my stepson. He would tell his son to do or don't do something. Son would refuse, and now ex would just cave in and let him get away with it. Every single damn time. I let it go so many times. Finally I brought it up with ex that my stepson hadn't done any of his chores or cleaned his bathroom in 2 months. Ex said he'd take care of it, and then didn't, and so on. This stress, me with a very stressful job and a psycho boss at the time, led me into a mental breakdown. I'm not proud of who I was during this time. I was angry and lashing out a lot. I recognized I had a problem and went and got help, intense therapy, diagnosed CPTSD, medications, the whole works. X on the surface seemed to support me. I apologized and did everything I could to make it right. But it didn't matter because he was already fucking someone else. He'd go to this woman's house after work, fuck her, and then come home before I would get home from work. He'd act like everything was fine, go into the bathroom, arrange to go to her house and fuck her, and then give me some lie about going for drinks with his guy friends. When things get hard, there are usually two reactions: pouring yourself into making yourself better and improving your life, or running away. I did the former, he did the latter. I actually took him back once because I loved him and wanted to make our marriage work. I didn't want to lose our family or our lives together. But not 2 months later, he was fucking the other woman again. He abandoned me, his kids, his dogs, everything, and just walked out. I took care of his kids. They were young adults at that time, 19 over 24, but not self-sufficient, for a year before I finally put my foot down. It takes two people to work on a marriage. I wanted to save it, but he just wanted to run away. He never dealt with his own issues that I had no idea about. That's another story. So it ended. And now that I'm out of it and still in therapy, I'm realizing how emotionally and verbally abusive he was. He would gaslight me, set me up to fail, punish me with the silent treatment, yell at me for the most ridiculous shit, and so on. I loved who I thought he was, but that person didn't exist. The lying, cheating, gaslighting, abusive person is who he actually is. I'm tearing up as I'm typing this because this whole situation fucked me up beyond belief, and I'm going to need so much more therapy to heal from it. Meanwhile, he's still with the woman he cheated on me with and left me for twice. I hope it was worth it for him. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.